It is Wednesday afternoon, 1 o'clock, 1-ish, about 1:10, I think. And it's my live session for the day, obviously. I did my workout this morning. Um, did a burpee Matty routine, and always tough, no matter what it is. He's a burpee mathematical savant. All kinds of great stuff comes from his evil logbook that he has with him whenever you see him do burpees online. Quick question. When you go live, they tell you to hold still for the photo. And then they take a photo of the top of my head, no matter what angle, no matter how I hold the camera, no matter where it's positioned. It is, hey, barefoot burpees. You know what occurred to me? And you may not want to say it live, but in maybe close to a year, definitely over half a year, that I've been talking to you on YouTube. I actually don't know your first name. So no need to put it out if you don't, if you're guarding your privacy, understandable. But when I talk to Mocha and I mention you, it's always, hey, Richard, barefoot burpees, or BB. And she said, what's his real name? And oddly, I don't know. So I was talking about going live, and then they always say before you go live to hold still for the photo. And then no matter where I position the camera, they take a photo of the top of my head. I don't know, is there another way to get that photo taken? I always change it later, but just throwing it out there. Barefoot Burpees is a good name because, even when I see you doing other stuff, even when you're doing ring work, even when you're sprinting, in essence, you're barefoot. That's who you are, spiritually. I mentioned earlier today that I would that make your wife Mrs. Barefoot Burpees? Would she be okay with that? Richard, that's got to be a great treadmill hike. Are you hiking or are you running in Nepal? Oh, hiking. I see it now. Hiking is an underrated training modality for ultra runners, for sure. Yeah, I don't think Mocha would be okay with Mrs. Burpees anything. Even ex Mrs. Burpees anything, I don't think she'd be okay with it. I was mentioning earlier, though, that, using that term spiritually, I say it a lot, and then I always say that I don't care for the term that much because it implies a separation between what is spiritual and what isn't, and really everything is. And that's why, in essence, barefoot burpees is like a good description, a good name for who you are in essence. Because no matter what shoes I see you wearing when you're running or whatever, it's still, you have that barefoot inner spirit shining through. That's a pretty big incline. I don't think any treadmill I've ever been on has had an incline that high. Do you have a hilly race, mountainous race coming up? It's way of mind, way of life. It's a very Tao-centered name. Yeah, but you got your start in the people got to know you. I got to know you in the burpee community, and you're never far from doing burpees. That's another. Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. And yeah, it's probably better put it on the fast speed and listen to it later after dinner. It'll save you from the endless ums and ohs that I'll be throwing out there. Um, I love time races, Richard. They were some of my favorite time races, some of my favorite races. 24-hour races, particularly. I always tell people that time races are like the Grateful Dead concerts of ultra running because you just go and you make it your thing. Um, you run as far and as fast as you want in 24. You run as little as you want. You set whatever goal you want. Moke and I have met a woman who was going for her first half marathon ever, um, and she used that time just to get those miles in, breaking it up. But she got her half marathon. Um, yeah, I agree that burpees to me at this point in my burpee endeavors implies motion, full body motion. Um, so how I know it's a specific exercise, but like you said, it's a way of thinking, it's a way of being, it's a way of expressing yourself, and um, it all to me it all belongs on a burpee channel, no matter what I do. But throwing in parallel bars lately, um, you know, it all has that barefoot essence to it. Um, I've done 24-hour races on a half-mile course, and I've done them on um, I think a 5-mile course. Um, I actually like those um, shorter courses. I like feeling like I'm accomplishing something each and every moment almost. You're almost always just out of sight of the goal, one way or the other. I just left, or I'm just coming in. Um, there's a lot to be said for that. I haven't done one on a track, but if I make a comeback, if I make an ultra comeback, which I've toyed thinking when I hit my 60s, still a few years away, that I would do something like that. And it is a very social, like you just said, it's a very social event. And 100s, I get to know specific runners who are my speed. Um, but in a 24, especially on a short course or any time race, you're going to get to know the fast ones, the slow ones, the medium ones, mid pack, top of the pack. You're going to get to know them all at one time or another, at least on a nodding basis. Um, it's nice talking ultras. It's been a while. My last official ultra, I think, was 2019. Uh, I did a 50K plus. Um, it was supposed to be on a trail, but it was rained out. The parks wouldn't allow people in, so we did loops at the airport on a trail and part pavement. Um, Actually, it was my last ultra that I walked the entire way, and I ended up doing, I think, 7 hours and 14 minutes. So a decent walking pace. Um, and I usually feel much better, even power walking, speed walking, an ultra than I did um, if I had a hard effort when I was running. It would take me, a little bit of time to recover. 24-hour race, recovery was all about making up for lack of sleep. That I could actually run the next day or later that day. Um, but recovering from that lack of sleep got harder and harder. Um, let's see. I'm going to read a little bit from my blog. And today I talked about cats and dogs, meditation, unconditional love, self realization. It all kind of came together as it often does when I sit down to write. I have no clear idea or intention of what I'm going to write about, just that I'm going to write. And then um, things have a tendency to take shape completely on their own, as if there was something that wanted to be written and I just had to stumble my way towards it. I'm always reminded of what Michelangelo said when he was asked how he discovered, how he made David, carved David from that single block of marble. And his reply was that David was always in the stone, and he just took away everything that wasn't um, David and revealed what was always there. Thanks, Richard. I appreciate you stopping by. Um, definitely interested in hearing more about your upcoming race. 48 hours is a long time. I'd like to hear what your goals are going to be. Obviously, 100 plus, but 150, 200. I know you've done sub 24s in your hundreds, which I never did. I hit the 28s and was feeling pretty good to have done that. Um, fairly fast in some of my 50Ks, but fairly fast in some of my 50s. Fairly fast in some 100-mile races. The worse the weather, the better I did. Being stubborn. So, the title of my blog today was Purring Meditation. Of my two cats, my littlest one is the most consistent yogi, joining me on the mat most mornings and afternoon sessions, demonstrating near perfect form in every pose she chooses to do alongside of me. She also spends considerable time in meditation, absorbed in the purring mantra of her breath, as awakened as any yogi ever, and without any struggle to reach this realization. My larger cat is perhaps drawn more to Bhakti yoga, devoted to me most of the day, curled against my side in her purring meditation. It seems we have our own means of self-realization, one particular practice that will best suits our present need and understanding. Side note is Bhakti yoga is the yoga of devotion, or the most natural method, as shown by both my cats. It's the art of simply being, a purring meditation. Misty, my visiting dog, is a natural Bodhisattva, easily enlightened, and here only to show and teach compassion to others along the way. I commented to my ex-wife just yesterday that Misty looks exactly as she is, a dog filled with happiness, joy, and unconditional love, a welcoming presence to every other dog and person to cross her path while walking, and everyone seems drawn to her. What Misty teaches is the immediacy of forgiveness, that any lapse of attention or judgment on my part is easily forgiven in the very same instant that it occurs, a smile and wag of tail showing me that all is well. Clearly her path is one of love. So I'm surrounded by yogis, blessed with teachers that show me different ways to be enlightened. My own path is through their devotion, that I am worthy of love by virtue of my presence, and that my actions of caring for others, shown through dog treats and joining cats in purring meditation, it's all part of my natural expression, easily revealed, no different than a purr or wag of tail. Not in essence, at least. It's all love. And that's the key. That's the secret and the magic, is that we often talk about this unconditional love of dogs or any of our pets and what they show us and how we relate to them. And the secret is, in essence, we are not so different from them, but we are burdened with layers of beliefs and thoughts of who we think we are, who we've been told that we are, who we believe we are. We've had teachers, we've had parents, we've had siblings, we've had friends, we've had strangers, media, maybe all meaning well, but they have their own burdens to carry. They have their own false beliefs of who they think they are. They have their own moments, probably quite a few, as we all do, or have, of feeling unloved and unlovable, and it simply isn't true. In essence, in my essence, I have the same ability to forgive, the same unconditional essence of love That's been the word of the day, by the way, essence. Um, as Misty, as my cats, it's just that Misty doesn't have to carry that burden of self-doubt and belief that she is not worthy of being love. And I'm saying being love, not being loved. But when we recognize that we are love, then we know it's not something that we give, it's not something that we receive, it's something that we are. Unconditional. We often say unconditional and then immediately place conditions on it. Unconditional, as long as you love me. Unconditional, as long as we're married. Unconditional, as long as you do this for me. Well, that sounds like a condition. It is a condition. And yet, it also isn't really love. It's our concept of love. It's our story of love. It's our belief, our false belief of love. Love is who and what we are, easily, no effort needed. Now, being in a relationship is a little different. It's not just so much about that unconditional love. It's also a practice, learning how to relate. Just now dawned on me, hey, that's why it's called a relationship. Learning how to relate, learning how to listen, learning how to talk. But it all stems from unconditional love. When we realize that, and when we realize it's a practice, well then, hey, it becomes degrees easier because I can commit to a practice. I've done close to 600 days of burpees. I've done 30 years of daily meditation. I've written every day for almost 25 years. Don't tell me I don't know how to practice. But practice alone isn't enough. We need to realize that unconditional love means, again, no conditions. Now, you can have unconditional love and a relationship still might not work out. It's life and how it happens. But that doesn't mean you stop loving that person. Not in truth, not honestly, but the relationship changes. I think you have a better chance in any relationship when you approach it knowing that there is unconditional love, and then there is the expression of love as told through my relationship with you and your relationship with me. And that involves sometimes just liking the person. Do you like the person that you're with? It's funny because I started talking about cats and dogs. But the truth of the blog post and whatever teaching it might hold is, again, that unconditional love takes the shape of a dog, takes the shape of a cat, takes the shape of a bunny rabbit. And yes, I said bunny rabbit. And it takes the shape of you and it takes the shape of me. Course in Miracles says there are no special relationships, although we make special relationships. It means that love is love, accepting all. Now, that can be tough to approach a relationship and say there are no special relationships, because that makes the other person feel like they are not special in your eyes, and they should be special in your eyes, and they should be treated as such. But knowing that at the root of the relationship is that unspecialness quality of unconditional love that is all of us collectively as a whole. I'm probably not one to give relationship advice, so I won't. Let's talk about meditation, because this post is as much about meditation as it is about relationships. And I do, by the way, have great relationships with my 2 cats, with my visiting dog, with my ex-wife. Ex-wife is a technical term. Person. I don't like to say significant other because, um, again, it implies that there's an other. When Ramana Maharishi was asked by one of his followers, one of his devotees, how do we treat others? And he replied with a smile and said, there are no others. Pretty good way to approach any relationship, in my opinion, for what it's worth. Funny putting those two together, my opinion and for what it's worth, because my opinion sometimes isn't even worth much to me, and it shouldn't be, because it's just an opinion, it's just a thought. It doesn't have, I was going to say value, but it does have value. That's the thing when you talk about truth. I often hear people say, what's true is true, regardless. And yet, truth is revealed in different expressions. The truth of a Van Gogh painting isn't any different than the truth of a Monet painting, but it's expressed very differently. Sometimes it might be of similar objects. And that's the way it is with truth, is that, it goes through, and it's the same with values. Makes me think, whenever I talk about values, it makes me think of Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance, and a book about values. And do people have different values? We can talk politics and say, well, they do, because politically someone values this and someone values that. But I think if you were to lead a self-inquiry with people, you could strip away value after value after value until you reach the point where it comes to the other topic of this blog, being. It's a favorite word. It's a favorite book, The Art of Being, by Mahesh Yogi. The Art of Being, one of the books that inspired me to do mantra meditation way, way back in the day. And it truly is a book about the art of being. And it is an art. It's who and what we are. And it is the simplicity of just simply letting go of stories, letting go of false values, letting go of beliefs, and yet letting all that appear as well. Just because you have a belief doesn't make it true. However, doesn't necessarily make it false in a larger sense either. Instead, we just recognize that this is something that is an appearance within that vast expression of beingness. And then we can decide, or we can see how things unfold from there. My own, when I say we can decide, or we can choose, or we can do, my own experience, I can't say belief, is there is no doer, there is no chooser, but that doesn't mean something doesn't get chosen. I don't know how it works. I don't need to know how it works. I know that there's the absence of a decider, there's the absence of a doer, there's the absence of a chooser, and yet things get chosen, things get done, things get decided. Sometimes in the best way possible, sometimes in a pretty mucked up way. But the more I can come to it through that gentle art and easiness of being, the better the results turn out to be. When I get in my own way, and inevitably, I'm very proud of the fact that I said that without stumbling over the word. So proud, I was thinking about trying it again, but I'm not going to. I get in my own way. If I would have tried to say that again, I would have gotten in my own way, and I would have proven my point. So maybe I should have. But as there is no chooser, this is what happens. We get to this point in the conversation. So, being, there you go. That's how you meditate. Sit down and be. Stand up and be. Do whatever you want and be. Because guess what? You already are being. Bam. Easy. Simple. Now for me, I like to sit down, I like to close my eyes, I like to watch my breath for a minute or so, relax. And then I introduce the mantra. The mantra is a vibration. It's not a word that has meaning. I don't want to get lost in meaning when I'm meditating. I don't want to get lost in a concept or the appearance of a concept that comes from associating that word, that vibration, with something else. So if I sit down and meditate on the word hope, I will find that I start thinking of all the different things I've ever hoped for, or I hope uh, this happens, or this comes true, or all the ways hope can take shape in my life, versus meditating with the aid of a mantra, vibrating, the essence of silence, given the subtlest form of a vibration, and I think it gently, easily. It's let go. I don't let it go. It's just let go. And then I think it again, and I think it again. Bam, I have a thought about whatever. I have a lot of thoughts. I become involved in my thoughts. I am completely lost in thought. And somewhere, I'm reminded of that vibration of the mantra, and I think it again, and I think it again, and I think it again. And I find that somewhere, my mind starts to settle down completely on its own. Again, no effort on my part, and I slip into that gap. The past several days, probably every day that I've gone live, um, I have mentioned the gap. That space between thoughts, that space between words, that space between notes that makes music music, makes a song. That is being the gap. And everything comes from there. We can think of that as the absolute nothingness that came before the Big Bang. And then things happened. Pure consciousness. Our mind settled down. Primordial nature before the Big Bang. Pure consciousness. Thoughts happen. Thoughts occur. Meaning comes. Value comes. Um, everything comes. But we can return to it because it's never gone, never not what we are. And when we meditate, we slip into that gap. We spend more and more time. The more time we spend there, and remember, in essence, we're not out of it. We just don't always remember. We don't always know. But the more time we devote to consciously being there, the more it demonstrates itself in every avenue of our life. We become more patient, we become more caring, more compassionate, more empathetic, more creative, more inspired. I always differentiate. I got cocky. Too many big words, too many difficult words. And I thought I could just let them roll, but no, it doesn't work that way. I always point out the difference between creativity and inspiration, because you can be as creative as you want. That doesn't mean that you're inspired. Inspired means something original to me at least, pops in my head, and then the creativity that I have spent a lifetime cultivating takes over. To me, that's pretty cool, because again, there's my practice. I practice creativity, but you can't practice inspiration. You can only invoke. You can only open yourself. You can only pray for. You can only open yourself to inspiration, in spirit, in breath, inspired. So it's about being. It's about unconditional love. It's about wagging your tail and purring in meditation, whatever. It's about doing burpees. It's about who we are. And obviously, I'm not just talking about my blog post, I'm talking about life. Allow yourself life, which means You don't have to allow yourself to make a living because you're already alive. Um, Nothing against vocation, nothing against career, nothing against anything that we do. Um, but don't confuse that for making a living. Big difference. All right, guys, I'm going to end this early. Um, Believe it or not, I might be talked out. Uh, 30 minutes, 31 minutes. I'm wrapping things up tight. I'm pretty happy about that. Maybe becoming more efficient, concise. Probably not. Tomorrow probably will end up being a 2-hour talk about absolutely nothing. Who knows? I certainly don't. And honestly, I don't give it much thought. I come here, I read my blog, I have a conversation with my friends, and anyone who stumbles upon this um, talk, I'm not sure what to call it, not officially a podcast. Um, you know, again, it's a dialogue, it's a conversation. Anyone who stumbles upon it is truly someone I consider a friend, even if we haven't met or conversed or have any contact. Um, I can't help but think anyone in my realm of experience in whatever way is in some way, somehow, my friend, my teacher, um, my family. All right, guys, let's end it with that. And I will see you guys tomorrow for burpees. And then I will see you later in the day for whatever we talk about. Anyone who wants to join in for a live conversation, first, explain to me how to do it. And second, just let me know that it's something that you might be interested in doing. I'm always open to questions. I'm always open to conversations. Um, thanks again, guys. I will talk to you tomorrow.